Well, welcome back everybody and good morning. Well, it's almost, yeah, it's still morning here. Anyways, we ran out of memory on our phone, on a camera yesterday, and we ran out of battery life and everything. Just totally died. And so I was able to do some stuff off camera, which is probably okay because then I can kind of learn it. Even though I've done it before, every house is different. So learn it and then show you what I've done. So anyways, let me flip you around and show you what we're doing and what we've got to do, and hopefully get some stuff done. Finally, here we go. Okay, there is the roof with the new roof joist. This is what we got done off camera. We got the what do you call it, the pattern cut, and then we cut all of these and installed them, making this ridge beam more rigid and then equalizing it between the two. So we've got one here and one there. This is a 412 pitch, and this right here is a 612 pitch, which is a little bit more steeper. And so this pitch will go across the rest of the roof this way. And so, but in order to make it a little easier on myself to do this side of the roof, I'm going to build a little platform using, so these are temporary supports holding up the ridge beam. But once we get the main support here, we can take those down and it'll support itself. And then we can use these 14-foot 2x6s across here temporarily like these as scaffolding, which will really help. And so what I'm going to do is build the permanent support right there underneath the beam, both under the wall and above the wall, and that'll free up those 2x6s, and then we can use it to do the rest of the framing. So with no further ado, let's do some measuring and install this beam here, and then maybe even part of this wall, if not this whole wall that goes underneath the loft right there. So here's the stack of lumber for the wall I just cut down. These were 8-foot 2x4s, all of them. And I cut one for the top plate and one for the bottom plate. They're both exactly 8 feet now. This is the wall that we're building right here. So this wall is exactly 8 feet long. And so you can take your ruler measuring tape. If you draw your plans to scale, this one is a 1 inch equals 4 feet scale. And so I know that if I stick the measuring tape there, that I have a 8-foot wall because 2 inches equals 8 feet. And so with that measurement, I know that I can measure from, let me get my finger out here, from here to here and get the measurement I need from a stackable washer and dryer. And I'm not too worried about that now, but I do need to create a header over top of this washer and dryer. So if you're able to stand this up to where you can see the washer and dryer, I need a header over top of it because the ridge beam goes right down the middle. Of course, this is in the middle, so we need to support that load down to the floor through this header. So we're going to make a double 2x6 header. This is going to be approximately 34 inches wide opening. That way we can fit our washer and dryer in. And so we're going to frame this wall and then stand it up, and that'll support that ridge beam there. So we got that top support in, as you already saw, behind that 2x6. And then once we frame this wall, then we can remove that 2x6. So let's frame the wall. Here's the wall that we were explaining. So we've got the main support going up there to the ridge beam, which splits the load of this ridge beam in half, which is nice. But since we couldn't send it all the way to the ground, because we have a stackable washer and dryer going in this little doorway here, we needed to spread the load. So we took this double 2x6 and ran it across here. So we've got a double 2x6 running this way, which gives it a good amount of support, but not enough. And then we've got a double stud here. We've got the jack stud and the king stud, whatever they call it. And then the header, and there's another 2x4 there on top. So it's got plenty of support there. And so this is all the 2x4s I had, the short ones. I buy a couple every time I go, but 10 of them just disappear like that. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I've used 2 more up there, so 8. Crazy. So anyways, this gives me nice support. Now I can take this support out, which I did here, which you probably saw me do. Now I can use that to go across here, and I'll take a couple of those Timfoot 2x6s or some of those treated, subfloor boards and run across this way. That way I can walk across and install these beams. So I'll get this temporary support back and I'll bring you back to tell you how we do this. Next up, we're going to do the easy part of this roof that we're talking about. So we're going to make these rafters for this side, and I've already got a pattern down there which I'll show you. It's that one right there in the middle of the trailer. So that pattern, basically the way I figured it out is pretty simple. Of course, if you're building new construction like this, you know what your measurements are because you're the one who made the measurements. But if you're doing remodels like I normally do, you kind of have to guess, and not everything is perfect. So for the most part, everything is pretty close on this, and so I don't have to worry about things. But I made this roof a 412 pitch, which means this cut right here is a 412, so that's easy enough. So I can take a board, cut a 412 pitch on it, and then I can set it right here on the end. This wall, of course, follows that pitch all the way down to this wall. It's got a double top plate there. And so I can set the pitch cut right there on the outside of the wall, and then I can take my pencil, because I have 2x6 right here, and I can trace around this board, which gives me the bird's mouth. Pretty simple. If you don't have that option, you're doing a remodel and you don't know exactly what the pitches are, it's a little more tricky, but you can take your board, get your pitch, you can take your measurement, and you can measure down to your bird's mouth. That's also one way of doing it. Now, the only thing I'm not 100% happy with on this job is that my bird's mouth is a little bigger than I want, because what I could have done and maybe should have done, but I'm not worried about it, is put a double top plate on this wall. The reason I didn't is because I want this 2x6. There's gonna be, the roof goes out, of course, another foot at least, or 16 inches, I haven't decided yet. But I can take a 2x6 and lay it across this direction and tie it into this. I think they call that a strong back or something like that. That way, your eave, your soffit out there is supported by your roof. And so instead of taking this one and setting it here, which you could do, and then adding building like a ladder shaped thing and sticking it on there, it's just not as strong. And so if you put this one here, you run your 2x6s across this way, nail them into here, nail them into your soffit board, and it gives you a strong, really strong eave and soffit there. So that's what I'm gonna do, and that's why I kept it this way. But it did make this notch pretty substantial. And of course, I could make it to where it fits in there perfectly, but that's not a bird's mouth. So what I did is cut the notch, and this is plenty enough to support this much of soffit. Not a big deal. But if I do it over again, I might add a board there, bringing this board up, even though it would be above my beam. I could raise my beam as well, but I wanted my beam to be inside of that pocket to support it from tilting either way. Also not super important because these will keep it from doing that, but I like to have it in that pocket. So that's why we kept it there. So the bird's mouth is a little bigger, not a big deal. So anywho, if you see that and you're concerned about it, don't worry about it, it's not your house. Anyway, so I need to cut those. So I'm gonna jump down to the trailer, and then I can take my pattern board and stick it on top of a 2x6, and then I can trace it out and then cut it out, which I need, I think 10 of them or something like that, because I'm doing 2 foot on center. So every other one's gonna land on top of a stud, which is also why 2 foot on center. If you didn't do 2 foot on center and you want it a little bit stronger, you could do a 16-inch center, which is what the what the wall is. So 16, 32, 48, so on and so forth. But since I'm doing 2 foot on center, I think it's plenty strong enough. We're gonna have a metal roof, so the snow will slide off easily. So we're not gonna have a huge load, hopefully there. And if we do, I'll rake it off. But 16 on center would be stronger, but I don't think necessary. If you go much less than a pitch this, if it was a flatter pitch, like a 212 or less, you would definitely want 16 on center. But since this is a 412, it has plenty of slide. And this over here, this board over here is a 612, which is even steeper, and so it'll be fine. So anyways, that's that. So I'm gonna walk across these nice and safe and go cut those 2x6s and then bring it back up here and show you how to attach them. Okay. Okay, when you do this, just grab yourself a full length 2x6. These are 10 feet. And then you grab your pattern board. This one has the bird's mouth cut right here, and then this pitch on that end. So we're just gonna run this through the end and then even it out. And then take our pencil, mark the pitch side, mark the bird's mouth. And I'm not worried about cutting the end off here yet, because when I do that up on the wall up there, we'll cut everything to the exact same. Especially since I haven't decided on how big of a box I want up there. I'm just gonna leave it long, and then I'm gonna eyeball it and be like, that looks big enough, or that looks too small. Get the right size. It's probably gonna be a foot, but it could be 16 inches. We'll see. I kind of like a little bit of overhang, protects the siding of the house a lot. But we'll decide on that later. We don't have to do it now. So then we'll take our saw and cut those notches out. Take our earplugs out of our pocket here. Oh, my trusty True Work pants. I love these pants, by the way, except for sharp objects and hot stuff. They don't like that. Just gotta walk by something and snag me. So far, I've had really good luck with them, but definitely a little bit sad about that. So now I'm gonna take my saw and cut these notches here. Throw the scraps in the burn pile. Actually made it. And then since I don't want to overcut this bird's mouth with this saw, because then you weaken your board here. So if you take your sawzall, stick it in here, turn it off safety. You can cut that out nice and neat without weakening your soffit or your ceiling joist. That's about it. Do that a bunch more times. Perfect. And then we'll see you up there and install them together. So once you get all of your boards cut and ready to use, stack them where you can reach them. Got a couple there, a couple there. Now I just need to come up and mark where they go, which I've already done. So 2 foot on center, just like when I've showed you how to mark 16 on center. You're just marking over 2 feet and then going back 3/4 of an inch. That way you can mark a line where you can reach the side of your board. You can see it. Let's see if I can get closer here so you can see it. Whew, that's bright. So anyways, I'm gonna put my board on the left side of this line. The X marks where the board goes. The board goes here, and then I can screw it in temporarily. I'll come back with some brackets and nail it off. But same on the wall over here. 2 foot on center, which is going to line up perfectly on top of a stud every other time. So grab one of these boards, slide it up, screw it in. One. Do a bunch more now. And just like that, we've got them all installed. Check it out. Woohoo! And I also put some planks here, and I fastened them at the correct measurements. That way ties everything together a little bit. But here's the loft in its full glory. Of course, this will all have decking on it, just like this stuff down there too, except across here. But that's not going to happen until we get the roof weather tight. Try to get the water from not going into the insulation in the floor. Of course, the plastic should keep it safe, but there's a bunch of little nicks and holes in it from when I've been working. So like I said, I just installed some of these planks. I screwed them in every 8 feet or so. That way I can walk along them without falling through or a board moving too much. And then I can walk all the way out here to allow me to put the rest of the rafters on. I'll put, there's one more 2x6. Actually, I used it there, so maybe I won't, but I'll support this somehow. That way I can walk out the rest of the way to hang the rest of those. But now I can go down and cut, using the other pattern piece, I can cut the 612 pitch boards and start moving those this way. So that's up next. Oh, it's a new day. Let's do double line. 2 feet back, the side. Just to this side. Let's fix this line first. The funny thing is I have like 4 sets of nice scaffolding back in my storage unit that I use for work, but I'm too lazy to go to town to get them, so we're just gonna walk on precarious 2x6s and get the job done. That is exactly 14 feet, which is incredible. So now that we've got that installed, we can do the rest. Well guys, just after a few more ceiling joists are cut, we installed them all. The only thing we're missing right now is the strong backs that I've talked about. They're gonna hang over the edge and support the fascia eave box out there. So that'll be coming up pretty soon. But what I'm doing right now is taking out some of these temporary braces that I had and then throwing them in a pile to reuse for scraps. I was able to take out those 4 braces. Now that I have this wall, I can permanently brace, more temporary, I guess, more than temporary, but less than permanent. Braced down to the floor, so this will keep this center section plumb. So both that wall, this wall, and that wall are all plumb, so that's a good sign. So all I did was take my strap, because it was just like a 1/4 inch out, leaning this way. And so put my strap on there, and then screwed it down through a block right there. And then I can ratchet strap it, and it winched it nice and perfectly plumb. So now that we're good there, we can move on to maybe plumbing this direction if we need to. I don't think we will. It should be already set. Because before I can put the roof sheeting on, which is really what I want to do next, not only because it's on top of the stack, but because it will dry in the area, dry in this place. But before I do that, I have to somehow stabilize the walls. That way it doesn't, when I get all that weight up there, it doesn't just fall over on me. That would be terrific, wouldn't it? So anyways, I'd like to get started with some siding, just at least a couple sections across the back and across the face. That'll give it some rigidity in that direction. And then I can work on the roof and then come back into the siding. Now, like I said in the past, I don't know if I've mentioned, I'm sure I have, on the siding, usually you have sheeting, just like this stuff right here. And you just nail that on across here and then stagger it across there. But since this house is a mobile house, I want it to be a little bit lighter than it could be. So I'm going to try to get rid of not using the sheeting and go straight towards the siding. So I made sure on when I was doing the framing that 69 center was consistent all the way across. That way I can nail this sheeting on, and then I'll have a little Z flashing across the top here, which I'll show you once we get to that. And then more siding, and then I'll have the vertical strips covering up the gaps. So that's what the plan is. But before I can put that siding on, I have to put on the house wrap, because I need a vapor barrier from the outside. So it's a little more difficult, because usually you hang this and that straightens everything out, and then you put the vapor barrier on, and then you put the siding on. So we'll have to straighten everything out behind the house wrap. We'll try to make everything perfect before we put it on. But anyways, let's continue on, and I'll bring you back once I know what I'm doing next. Things we need to do before we put the sheeting on, while it's still easy and accessible, is finish nailing off this seal board here. As you can tell, I got 2 nails there, and there's probably one in the middle underneath right there. There's 2 there, and there's a couple underneath of those. But I'd like to have more support just for extra strength if the wind ever picks up or something falls on the house. It's good just to have the extra strength. And so I'm going to come back and nail at each stud, and that's just going to lock the wall to the framing. I'm doing this left-handed, so a little bit slow, but you get the idea. Locking it in place, and the reason I'm only shooting 1 is because there's nothing out here to hit besides, I mean, I could hit that joist, I guess, but 1 is plenty going around this way. So we'll go around and continue nailing those off. Gives us some extra strength. Okay guys, it is currently 5 o'clock on a Friday, which means more work. Anyways, I think the last video I took on the camera was a time lapse of me putting up this siding. And again, if I didn't say before, which I'm sure I did a million times, is that I'm putting the siding on now. That way it gives us some shear strength so the walls won't crumble down when we put all the weight of the roof on. And then I went ahead and did the siding on the back, except for a half a piece, which I'll probably do soon just to complete that side. And that gives us shear strength this way. So it's been quite difficult to get everything to go smoothly along that way. I want the top to be exact if I can, and I want it to be level. But this frame goes up and down, and it's level as I can make it from on the floor. But as you can tell, this sheet's dipping down a bit. So we're gonna have to do some final adjustments, maybe with a saw cut on top to make everything perfect. But that's what you get when you start with a twisted up mobile home chassis. But it's gonna be great. So anyways, I've got that done. I got the house wrap put on and stapled off, and then the siding put on. And that should give you enough strength to continue on with the roof. I may add a few sheets here and there when I get bored of doing the roof stuff, because it's a little more difficult up in there. But anyways, let me show you what the next step is. So in the tiny house here, in the tiny house here, I've got the ladder put up, and we're gonna climb up in the loft, and I'll show you what we're doing. Oh, such a good space. It's gonna be awesome. I don't know if I've showed this to you, but looking from the loft down into the tiny house, it's gonna be epic. These are all temporary, of course. So that'll be all open. There'll be a nice little staircase there, couch, fireplace maybe one day. I got stung by bees, in case you're wondering what that red thing is on my arm. My wife said it looks swollen, but I said, no, that's just muscle. So anyways, I'm not that strong anymore, but one day I was. So next step is to cut these rafter tails to length. I think I've decided on 16 inches. So usually they're like at least a foot, but 16 inches is better. 2 feet seem too long. So I'm gonna cut this. That line represents, let's see here. This line represents 16 inches. No, I've got that wrong. That's 12 inches. So 12 inches, 16 inches. So this line here, I'll remove that screw, put it there. Then I'll take a measuring tape and do the same on the last tail there. Make a 16-inch mark, and then I'll take my chalk line, which is right there, hook it on the screw, pull it all the way across, and then snap it. And that'll make sure each of these are in a perfect straight line with each other. Take a breath here. And then I can nail on the fascia board, which goes on the end of this all the way down. And when I wrap around the corner here, I talked about having a strong back here. At least that's what I call it. I'm sure it's what it's called, but I'm not sure. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm taking some of these scrap 2x6s. I've cut them the length that it takes to get across to 16 inches overhang. So these are actually 14.5 inches past there to there. And the board I put on the end will be 16 inches because it's 1.5 inches. So I 1, 2, 3. I might have to add some more depending on what material I use underneath there. But we'll cross that bridge later. I can do all that from underneath. So I need to do that there, and on those two sides. And then also cut these. So once I get that mark done, I can take a level and go straight down from this mark and then draw a line right there. And that'll give me my 612 pitch. You can also take your speed square if you want to and do this and move it up to 612. But I like the level because that just means it's perfect. So anyways, that's what's up next. Okay, measure out 16 inches. That is correct. That is the line. Put that there. Get my string line. Let's put this on there. And then take it down yonder. Probably was easier just to pull it all the way back. I was too lazy. So let's pull this up. Fishing for a string line here. Let's see what I come up with. Oh, nope. I had it locked, but now it's not. So it's going down to the ground. So now that that mark is all the way across all of those 2x6s, take that out, stick it in my pocket. Oh, then take a level and mark as a line. Hang out in the middle of nowhere here. I think I'll get a ladder for the rest of them. Okay, when I said 612 earlier, I meant 412 on this one. So there, now I can cut that off all the way down. There goes my measuring tape. Oh, I'm getting too old for this. And then once you climb yourself up a ladder, use extension ladder because it's so high. You can take your saw, pull back your guard, pop it off, throw the scrap in the pile. Ta-da! I have to do that, I don't know, 80 more times, something like that. 88 more times, I think. Getting a little loopy. Okay, a couple more and then we'll call it a day. Well, it's a little hard to tell you exactly what I'm doing when I'm up on top of the ladder. That is a, what is that? How long is that? A 20-foot ladder? I'm not sure. Something like that. This can't be that. I don't know. This is 16 feet off the ground, 14 feet off the ground. So ladder's at its max extension, so I can't really film on top of it because it's super shaky. But we got this board installed, and the way we do that is we just take our speed square or something flat and we run it down this, and we want the edge of this to be exactly in plane with this. That way when we stick our sheeting on, that green stuff there, we'll put it right to the edge and it'll be able to be nailed into this and into this without having to worry about anything like that. So you could probably set this, I mean, you could cut the pitch on this and bring it all the way to the top if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. Or you could bring this up and let the sheeting run into it, but that's a little more complicated. So this is the easiest way, just to run it there, nail it off, and that gives us a nice straight line to follow with the sheeting. And yeah, so next up is this board. I've cut a pitch on it already, and so it's got a 412 pitch, which is what this pitch is right here. So I can nail it right there, and then I'll nail it on the end of these, and I'll show you how to do that hopefully right now. Okay, see if I can nail this on somewhat safely. And my family's here, so if you hear talking in the background, my family's here. Don't forget your tool belt before you get to the top there. That way you can nail off those boards for Dada. Those nails will just hold it in place while I get everything else nailed off. Ooh. See if I can shoot myself now. And then the top one. And you can see why it's so hard to film. I can barely stay up here. Okay, from an outside view, you can see the soffit board there, this one. I haven't nailed it here yet, but all I need to do to nail it here is make sure that my speed square slides on there, which it does perfectly. And then I want to make sure it's straight, so I need to look down this, and you can see it. Well, you can't really see because of this stick, but it kicks out a tiny bit, so we'll push it in, nail it, and then I can come back with my saw because I ran it a little bit wild. Just mark a straight line on my speed square and then cut that with my saw, and they'll be perfectly nice and tight and flush there. And then it goes down there pretty straight, not too bad. So, and then on the end down there, it hangs 16 inches over. That way I can do the same as I did with this board down there, except for once I get this one installed, actually here in a second, I'll probably start doing some sheeting. Now for insulation purposes, I'll probably put some more of these in between these. But we'll do that from the inside. This doesn't need to be done now. So anywho, that's what that looks like. What do you think? So that's one sheet. It takes forever with one person. I still have to nail things off, and of course we're gonna put some more bracing underneath there, like I said, but we can do that later. We also might straighten this one up. This one looks a little crooked from up above. Also not too bad though. So anyways, you nail this off. Usually on a roof like this, you measure up where you want to go from the end of your tail up to there and over yonder, and then you make a snap line so you can follow that, and you put a nail there so you can push it right up against it. So these next sheets, I might put a set nail, that way I can push it right up where I want it to go. But it's a little too dangerous to film and get this done, so I'll bring you back when I've got more of this done, and I'll show you what the next steps are. We went ahead and added our blocking now. This is just basically a bird block, big old bird block. Bird blocks are the blocks you stick in between your rafters down here to keep birds from flying up in. That's how I've known them as anyways. But so this over here will keep us the 2-foot spacing, so we can put our insulation in from underneath. It'll still fit in there, and it'll go over top of the wall, so there's no uninsulated space there. This is a soffit, so there's no need to insulate this space. So yeah, so this board is nailed off and ready to be trimmed off. So the only reason it's wild over there is so I could have this over here nice and perfect. That way the next sheet is 8 feet, will end on that next rafter. These are 2 foot on center, and this is 16 inches. That's why those lines don't match up, but the next sheet they will. So whenever you have a sheet that doesn't match up because of your soffit, you just follow your line. So you can see that the nail is to the right of it. So you just space your nails that much to the right of it all the way down. You don't have to do any measuring. That's what the lines are for. So anywho, a lot of work left to do. And just like that, we're out of time for the day because I've got to go to work. But it's only 3 p.m. but I've got to go do some other stuff to make money. So anyways, I've got the roof on all the way from there to there. I got the strong back, whatever that I've called it, done over there. The overhang here I haven't completely decided on yet, but I know we're probably going to be doing the 16 overhang like we've done everywhere else. So I framed that out and overhang the sheeting. That way I can come back and do that. I was hoping to get the ice guard and the underlayment on this side as well, because it's supposed to rain tomorrow. But I'll come back and I'll do that first thing. That way at least this side of the roof is dried in, and I can start on the other side. When I was doing this side of the roof, it was very wobbly, of course, because there's no sheeting over here. This side's got that wall completed and this wall up to here. And so it's very strong, a lot stronger than the other side. And so I might pause to do some more siding, maybe at least finish this side and go around the front. That way it gives me some strength, because it's a little sketchy feeling up there. So I'm afraid if it gets really windy, we'll have problems. So we've got bracing on the inside. But yeah, so anyways, we're gonna come back and do some trimming. As you can see, this piece is a little bit low. The trailer is level in most places, but not all places, and the walls are level, but they're not level together exactly. And so there's a little bit, so I'm gonna come back, I'll trim these flush, and it'll be fine. It's not perfect, but it's not a perfect house either, on a foundation. So we'll do that, and then we got the Z flashing to go there, and then the more siding there, and then the vertical trim pieces there. So anyways, we got the other side to do still. This is what it looks like from underneath though. Got the we'll do some additional framing under here, so when we do the soffit boards and everything, we're thinking about putting some under soffit lighting there, which would look sweet shining down in the middle of the woods. Look beautiful. So anyways, quick tour of the inside before I finish up. Looks good. Same identical strong back over here as down at the other end. And yeah, so I gotta take down this temporary brace, that temporary brace, and these ones, so I don't need to walk on there anymore, at least right for now. Maybe in the future for the ceiling, but we'll probably use some scaffolding for that. So that's that. So we'll do the other side and we'll be dried in. I'm excited. I can't wait to get all the siding done and all the roofing done. That way we can at least work on some other projects that I'm getting behind. I just want to get this done before it rains. So anywho, head to work. Catch you later. Either in the video later, or we'll show you some more footage. I'll decide. See you in a little bit though.